We live?
Live.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda, and this is Jordan. I am. Hey, Terry.
Hey, Terry. We need a sitcom, you know. Woo!
Okay.
Okay,
Nicole was
okay.
unable to be here tonight, so my son has offered to fill in for her.
Oh, God.
We will be in Job 34 tonight. Hopefully, we'll be able to stay on track with what's going on. All right. So, tonight, Elihu continues with his wordy speech. All right.
Is this where he's the one's collapsing?
Are you doing, no, this is not the lungs collapsing
Because
part.
he talks so much.
Yeah,
NLT.
you're doing NLT.
Yeah.
Okay, we're both coming out of NLT tonight. I think
I mean, I
NLT.
come out of something
No,
else.
we can do NLT because I think NLT to me words a little bit easier and pretty much plainer than the other ones. I've read 3 different ones, but anyway. Huh?
Nothing. Go ahead.
You said you was going to read KJV.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not do that. Okay. No offense to KJV. It's just, it's a little too Shakespearean for me. All right, so the title for 34 is Elihu Accuses Job of Arrogance. You want to lead off or you want me to start?
I'm a better closer.
You're a better closer. We take turns reading the chapter, bud.
I know.
All right, I'll start. Then Elihu said, "Listen to me, you wise men. Pay attention, you who have knowledge. Job said, the ear tests the words it hears, just as the mouth distinguishes between foods. So let us discern for ourselves what is right. Let us learn together what is good. For Job also said, I am innocent, but God has taken away my rights. I am innocent, but they call me a liar. My suffering is incurable, though I have not sinned." All right. So this first section, Elihu inaccurately summarizes Job's arguments. Okay. One commentary that I had read said that when he says, "Listen to me, you wise men, pay attention, you who have knowledge," it's they kind of alluded to that Elihu might be trying to say that he might be just a wee bit wiser than those that have already spoken.
It's almost like he's trying to not necessarily degrade them, but kind of yeah, like belittle how their way of thinking is lesser than his way of thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Job said, the ear tests the words it hears, just as the mouth distinguishes between foods. That is talking about discernment, how we're supposed to have discernment in our lives and everything. Of course, now with what we're all going through with the presidential election and everything, we've a lot of people really need discernment, but anyway. I don't like to talk politics anyway. Yeah.
Lol.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So let us discern for ourselves what's right. I hear them. For Job also said, I am innocent, but God has taken away my rights. I am innocent, but they call me a liar. My suffering is incurable, though I have not sinned. Okay. Elihu kind of stretches what Job actually said. I don't have notes. I'm not gonna lie. It has not been a very good past few days.
I know, I had to work. Some of that free money.
That's not where. At one point, Elihu adapts a lot of what Eliphaz said. Like in the last chapter, he adopted some of what, who was it, Zophar? You know, what Zophar had said against Job and everything.
It's really, to me, just a bunch of gossip.
Well, you know, and that's kind of what it's
Gossiping
come
on
down
that?
to. Yeah. You know,
I mean, and it's almost, it's
You
not
got
even
the
like
facts?
it's not even like it's gossip. It's more like a game of telephone, you know, where one person says something, and then you take it as something else, and then you spread it. You know, like Job never said that he's without sin, but Elihu's like, oh, but he said he was without sin. You know, like it's not really. I don't think it's really respectable.
Yeah, they're trying to say that Job is saying that he's sinless, but Job's never said he was sinless. But Job's thing was there was not a special sin, I think is how it was worded in David Guzik's commentary, that warranted what he was going through.
Well, he not only asked forgiveness for himself, but for other people, you know, for his family and everything like that. So
yeah, I mean that was a daily routine for him, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, Elihu, I think in his heart is trying to help Job, but again, he's adapting inaccuracies that Job either didn't say or that the friends are accusing him of.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of judging.
Yeah.
Very judgy. All right. You want to read 7 through 9? I don't know how it's broke up on your phone.
It's I mean it's similar.
Okay.
Tell me, has there ever been a man like Job? With his thirst for irreverent talk, he chooses evil people as companions. He spends his time with wicked men. He has even said, why waste time trying to please God? Is that where that's where mine cuts off?
Yeah, that's where mine cuts off.
Okay.
So, again.
What? You okay?
No, I'm just trying to think of the words I want to say. Elihu's being very judgy.
Then again,
in Elihu's defense, Job has been what some would call irreverent in his speech to God. Job is speaking from a place of hurt, grief, and
I feel abandonment.
yeah,
Loneliness.
and abandonment. Yeah, because I mean, and not just because his friends have turned against him, but in his eyes, God has turned against him.
The one person he always counted on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have the privilege of knowing what's going on, but they don't. They don't have that privilege, but it's like they don't even adapt the concept that there could be something else going on.
right.
So
Well, I mean, that's all these people have ever known, is that if something bad happens to you, then that's punishment from God. These people don't, they can't even fathom the belief of, okay, yes, Satan's here, but if there's a punishment, then it must be from God. Because up until this point, most of the things that's happened in the Bible and in history has been punishment from God.
Honestly, I don't even think they have the concept of Satan, to be honest with you.
Right. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of uncertainty, I feel.
Yeah. And then, I don't know that the three friends from before were trying to, I don't want to say accuse, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they were trying to insinuate that evidently Job was doing something in private and everything. I don't think Elihu actually thinks that Job consorted with evil people.
Yeah.
And everything. I think that Elihu thinks because of his disrespect for God and everything, he's aligning himself with them.
Right.
And everything.
Well, I mean, in verse 8, how he says he chooses evil people as companions and he spends time with wicked men.
Mm-hmm.
Is this before God abandons him, or is this after?
Well, God doesn't really abandon him.
Right,
but
what he would describe as God abandoning him.
well, I mean, Job's really not spending time with anybody. He's in
That's
a
what I was
he's
gonna
in a garbage pile, basically.
Right, so
Just what we read is
in verses 8, it would be.
people he's been with is his friends that come to give him moral support.
Right.
Right.
But in verse 8, I mean, it's almost like it's talking about before.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe
it sounds
this
like
is-
he's talking like before, but
Maybe this is Elihu alluding to, well, since he's spending his time with evil people, this might be his punishment for it, which we'll learn later in the story of Jesus, that we should be out there with the people trying to work on their faith, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
instead of being with the
yeah.
already okay people.
But I don't think he really aligns himself with wicked people. I
Well,
think it's just.
I understand that, but it's just how Elihu is
Portraying it.
as in he's like, well, maybe he's being punished because of this.
Oh, got you. Okay. All right, 10
They're
through.
not asking it, making it seem like he knows.
Okay,
Right.
do we know that?
And I think it's a lot of Elihu, whatever's problem.
Before we move on to verse 10, I want to point
Okay,
something.
okay. I think that Elihu's problem is because he wants to be taken seriously.
He's
He tries to speak from a place of wisdom, and it's not always
Smart.
yeah.
right.
That's that kind of-
It's not always the case. I mean, to me, he comes off more arrogant
That's
than wise. But anyway,
I took a glance back a couple chapters to 32 since I've missed a while, and the first thing he even says is, "I am young and you are old."
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've
So
heard that.
that's the
But-
selling point of.
I know more
what
than
I
you.
don't know what I'm saying, but I'm gonna try to sound as smart as you are.
Yeah, and then again, like back then, like he's saying, like you guys are wise, and I'm young.
Yeah, because at first that's the one that I
A
thought.
lot-
It seemed like he had
another-
his back when everybody thought that he was.
Yeah. Back then, whenever like how social systems was set up, the oldest people were the wiser ones. We know today that might be very wrong.
I don't think so, buddy.
I'm not calling you old, Terry.
Or unwise.
Or unwise. But it's just, I mean,
Young and young.
Well, I mean, like we talked earlier, everybody's got their different wisdoms, and everything. Everybody learns differently,
so even if we realize that Elihu might not be as wise as he's saying he is, at least he presents himself like he is. Half the part of the job is looking good.
Oh, now we're talking about presidency again?
No.
Hush. All right, is that what you wanted to say? Or is there something else you want to say before I moved on?
Oh no, we completely skipped over verse 9. Did Joe ever say that?
Why waste time trying to please God? In a sense.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that?
I watched a
Hang on a minute. Wolf, Joe. Okay, we're not gonna do 35:3 because we hadn't got there yet.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Job 21:15. He says, "Who is the Almighty, and why should we obey Him? What good will it do us to pray?"
so that's almost kind of taken out of context.
It's kind of taken out of context.
But at the same time, like, it almost has some truth in it. I feel. Like, depending on the situation, I don't feel like you should, what's the phrase?
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we supposed to please God?
We're supposed to try to. I
Okay,
feel.
so we're supposed to try to
Yeah.
please God. Why?
Yeah, let's go with that one because he likes it.
We're his dancing monkey.
Well, I mean, be serious.
We're
Be
supposed to.
serious.
I feel like.
I mean,
as
yes, He
Christians-
does like it. God loves it when we please Him.
I feel like in some situations, depending on whatever they are, trying to please God is like trying to get at something you're never going to achieve. You know, if that makes any sense. It's like a third party for America today. There's no point in it, but you still go for it. That makes it. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm trying to use an analogy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so no.
It's
Right over your head.
right over my
Okay,
head.
so imagine this. Say you really, really, really want this very expensive car. Okay, the odds of you ever getting that in a lifetime is slim to none. Are you still going to try to get it or not?
So how bad you want?
Probably not. You just shattered my dreams. I'm giving up.
Okay, let's look at this in a non-materialistic way.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. Why waste time trying to please God? Okay. Are we supposed to please God with the intention that we're going to get something out of it?
No. We're supposed to please God because He likes it.
One step a little further.
The alternative,
Huh?
because the alternative to not pleasing God,
I feel like
making
the
him angry.
the
Dang sure don't want that.
I mean you're supposed to please God with the
That's still with the intention of.
wanting.
That's still with an intention.
I mean, it's worse than not pleasing God. I mean, if you don't please God,
Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay.
yeah.
Are you supposed to please me?
That's materialistic.
No. Are you supposed to please
yeah.
me?
Well, I'll try. Yeah, I'm supposed to try.
Okay.
I'll
you're
go back-
supposed
I'll go back to my original
Okay,
statement.
back to the original statement. We're supposed to try to
Yeah.
please God. Okay, and you're supposed to try to please me.
Right.
Why?
Because
There
the
we
Bible
go
says,
again.
"Honor thy mother and thy father." Bam.
You get laughed.
Because she likes it.
Because it's
Because it's the right thing to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, 'cause
because that's the whole point. I mean,
show appreciation.
well,
to
yeah,
Well, I mean, it's
you
like- it's
show
our-
your
it's our-
appreciation and everything.
it's
but,
our duty to do it. It's our job.
I don't know,
almost.
I feel like, I don't know, me being in the path and straying away from the path, I feel like in my darkest times, there was times that I didn't have no light, but being back in the path, I feel like I'm always surrounded with the light. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
It's just that level of comfort. Whenever you're walking and you're surrounded by the light, I feel. Like you have more comfort doing that.
Melissa's wanting to word it a different way than you are.
Go ahead. Well, Go ahead. Feel free.
I don't know, it's kind of like peace, because, I mean, I don't know, because you're never alone, you know?
Yeah.
You never have to go back to the darkness, because you always have that light, because He's always with you.
Right.
And, you know, and imagine in Job's position, when he lost everything, and even when he cried out to Him, He didn't answer him. So, you know, when he did come close to saying this, it was just, you know, kind of like fussing with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Okay.
When you do something,
Mm-hmm.
hang on a minute. It was in my head while you was talking, and now it's gone. When you do something that you know is right, that is the right thing to do, you know, we're supposed to please God.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it with the intention of what you're going to get out of it, that's when it's no longer about God. It's about you. And our lives aren't supposed to be about us. Our lives are supposed to be about God.
Right.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Listen to me, you who have understanding. Everyone knows that God doesn't sin. The Almighty can do no wrong. He repays people according to their deeds. He treats people as they deserve. Truly, God will not do wrong. The Almighty will not twist justice. Did someone else put the world in His care? Who set the whole world in place? If God were to take back His Spirit and withdraw His breath, all life would cease, and humanity would turn again to dust. All right. So. What's that next thing?
Do you think it's a group of friends who have understanding?
They have understanding, in a sense. They do not understand this situation. They do not understand what Job is going through. They do not understand the particulars behind it. Like I said, only we have that privilege at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Only we have that privilege. I do think they have some understanding of God, but I don't think they understand God completely.
Well, you can never fully understand God.
No one can. I think in this particular section, Elihu is trying to insinuate that where Job has been questioning and pretty much fussing at God for, what he was going through, and God's not responding to him, and everything. Elihu is trying to say, well, buddy, you've sinned,
Mm-hmm.
God's not going to punish you for no reason, but it's not God.
I feel like Elihu is, at this point, yeah, I could see where he's saying, yeah, dude, you sinned because God's punishing you. But at the same time, I feel like Elihu's also focusing on the fact that after Job felt abandoned by God,
Mm-hmm.
that's whenever he started sinning against God.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Elihu's kind of focusing on that too. Like, that in itself is a sin. How you're blaspheming him after you feel like he's left you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Blasphemy is a sin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Job's walking the line on blasphemy. He hadn't really got there
Yeah.
yet.
Well,
but
will he? Exactly.
we'll find out.
Exactly.
Now going to the whole collapse lung thing. Verses 14 and 15. If God were to take back his spirit and withdraw his breath, all life would cease. All humanity would turn again to dust. So if God wanted to, all he has to do is inhale and poof, we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a joke.
So that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, because God breathed life into
Well,
Adam.
this whole thing in itself is a collapsed lung. Jeez, man. So many quotations. I've never seen this many quotations in my life.
Well, I mean, that's why you, well, Elihu's problem is he's misquoting a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
He's looking at Facebook.
Who is?
Elihu.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like the CNN of. Well, no, I'm not going to say that.
No. We're not back. We're
Nope.
not back.
Never mind.
We're
We're going
not
to take that back.
Yeah, let's take that back. I'm sure in their hearts their news is true, but anyway. The Almighty will not twist justice. This just really shows how bad they don't know God, or how they don't understand how God works, in my opinion. Because no, God doesn't twist justice and everything, but knowing Job's character, they should realize that what Job is going through isn't actually God that's causing it. But again, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Alright. You got anything you want to add?
I mean, everything here is pretty
Straightforward.
straightforward, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't really kind of dance with his words, so.
Alright, 16 through 20.
Yep. Now listen to me, if you are wise, pay attention to what I say. Could God govern if he hated justice? Are you going to condemn the Almighty Judge? For he says to kings, you are wicked, and to nobles, you are unjust. He doesn't care how great a person may be, and he pays no more attention to the rich than to the poor. He made them all. In a moment they die. In the middle of the night they pass away. The mighty are removed without human hand.
This is like the second time, or no, the third time, if I'm not mistaken, that he's talked to the group of wise men. I put in quotations. And he's kind of said, like, listen to me. It's repetitive. Sometimes that makes me wonder if he's just stuttering.
Who?
Elihu. Like, not stuttering over his words, but like stuttering over his argument.
Possibility.
Just to make himself sound smart. Because a lot of people, especially because I've been one of these people before, whenever you're trying to make yourself sound smart, you sometimes use the same word to start off things. Basically, therefore, theoretically, whatever the word may be. So whenever he's trying to round up these men, he's like, listen to me, hey, guys, you know.
I think he does it too because I think at this point a lot of them are kind of turning a deaf ear to him because he obviously speaks a lot. And
I mean, we weren't there, so maybe they just wasn't listening to him.
that's a possibility.
Or maybe they were trying to argue with him.
Mhm.
You never know.
It's one of two things. Either they're not listening to him or they keep on trying to interrupt him.
He's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Stop right there.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
Could God govern if he hated justice? Are you going to condemn the Almighty Judge?
Yeah. This is Elihu's take that Job was condemning God.
He also has the same kind of argument in this piece that he did in the one above it. He's asking rhetorical questions. Questions that don't require answers.
I think we know what rhetorical questions
Just in case
are.
people in TV land don't.
Okay. Rhetorical questions make questions that doesn't require an answer. Okay. But anyway.
It's the same kind of argument. That's what I'm focusing on. I don't think he's too bright.
Well, who?
Elihu. Well, I mean, he's bright in a sense, but he's just not.
Well, he
He has the same argument structure. It's like, hey guys, listen to me. Then it's like question, and then it's like rada. Don't laugh. I mean, it's the truth.
Well,
this is
yes,
what I'm taking
it
from
is.
it.
Well, okay, all right. Something that Elihu and them seem to have forgotten about Job is, you know, Job did have this deep love for God and everything. I mean, Job spelled out everything he did, you know, in God's name and everything. And I mean, he's lost a lot, you know.
I mean, he's
And
lost everything.
it's almost like they don't understand his pain. They're not trying to understand his
Well,
pain.
they can't. They've never been put through this.
Well, they may not be able to sympathize with him, but they could empathize.
They could try to.
They could try to, but they're not even trying.
Then again, I don't think it would. I feel like them trying to empathize with him could also come off as them trying to justify his actions, which would also be frowned upon back in that time period.
What?
I said them trying to empathize with him could also come off as them trying to justify his actions, which is also a big no-no back in that time period.
Well, it would have been a lot nicer as friends to go up and
Well, yeah.
ask how you doing instead of what did you do?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, to me, there's a difference between empathizing and then trying to justify someone's actions.
Well, right,
you
but
know?
it's quite easy to look at something and go, oh, they're on his side about this whenever he's clearly done something wrong. Because these weren't the only people who thought that he had done something wrong. Everybody thought Job had done something wrong.
Well, yeah, because that's the way they were raised.
Exactly.
That was the tradition.
So if they see Elihu and Eliphaz and his other friends still being his friend instead of condemning him, then they could also get tore down as a person too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their public figure at stake. How their publicity. I'm not saying that this is all a publicity stunt, but what I'm saying is like this puts a lot at stake for them as well.
Alright. In a moment they die. Okay, he doesn't care how great a person may be, and he pays no more attention to directions heretofore. He made them all. In a moment they die. In the middle of the night they pass away. The mighty are removed without human hand. Which is true. Okay. What?
You just read 19 through 20.
Yeah. I was just reading through, see if there was anything I needed to add.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward as well.
Yeah. Because he doesn't show favoritism.
Yeah, I mean, we know
Well,
that one.
No, it's like he doesn't show favoritism. He doesn't think the rich above the poor. He thinks we're all equal in God's eyes.
Right.
Anything else to add?
Hold on. No, yeah. Was it? Yeah. No.
All right. For God watches how people live. He sees everything they do. No darkness is thick enough to hide the wicked from his eyes. We don't set the time when we will come before God in judgment. He brings the mighty to ruin without asking anyone, and he sets up others in their place. He knows what they do, and in the night he overturns and destroys them. He strikes them down because they are wicked, doing it openly for all to see. For they turn away from following him. They have no respect for any of his ways. They cause the poor to cry out, catching God's attention. He hears the cries of the needy, but if he chooses to remain quiet, who can criticize him? When he hides his face, no one can find him, whether an individual or a nation. He prevents the godless from ruling, so they cannot be a snare to the people. All right. So,
This is a big one.
huh?
This is a big one.
It is. The perfection of God's judgment. For God watches how people live. He sees everything they do. No darkness is thick enough to hide the wicked from his eyes. So, God sees everything we do.
That's, yeah. That's like kitty church. You learned that back in Sunday school.
Yes, but most people do not put that into action.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
here's another thing. So they didn't understand the whole accepting Jesus Christ and then living with you.
well,
So
Jesus
with
Christ
him
was-
watching it, he's also doing it with
Doing
you.
it with you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really have the, what's the word? They didn't really have the ability to accept Jesus Christ because this is many years before Jesus Christ graced the earth. But at least they still do realize, hey, God's still out there. He still sees you. You know.
Well, and I think that what Elihu is trying to get across is part of me thinks that he's trying to explain to Job, you know, God sees everything. So he knows what you did wrong. I think in a sense he's adapting to 3 friends things that Job's trying to hide his sin.
Yeah.
Even though,
But at the same time, this could be used to protect Job. At the same, the fact that God sees everything, God knows Job did.
well, God
anything
knows what's
bad.
going on because
Right.
God's
I mean,
involved
God
in
knows, yeah.
it.
So
I mean,
at the
he's
same
not the
time,
one
I mean,
who's
yeah, Elihu's
causing it, but
Elihu's like, well, yeah, God sees everything, and you must have sinned. That's what Elihu's saying. But at the same time, this could just prove to Job, who cares what they think? I know what I did. I didn't do anything. You know, even though I've almost blasphemed God at this point, he knows what I did, and I didn't do anything.
yeah, these next few verses talking about where we don't know the set time when God's judgment will come. God's final judgment will come. And it also goes back to the first two verses about God saying everything. God don't have to recall. He doesn't have to pull our book down and say, okay, now who was Amanda? What did she do? You know.
Yeah.
He knows, and our jobs as Christians and followers of Jesus and everything is to be prepared. So, even though we've done wrong in our lives, how we go forward is going to affect Judgment Day.
Right. You should always have the end goal in mind.
That's right. Start with the end in mind.
Start with the end in mind.
I have that tacked on my computer.
Yep.
At work, it don't always help. All right. And then he is spelling out God's judgments again about how he will overturn and destroy the wicked. In this verse, he knows what they do, and in the night he overturns and destroys them. Do y'all think that really means at nighttime? What do you think it means?
It could be both literal and metaphorical, in my opinion. Civilizations have crumbled overnight. Sodom and Gomorrah, etc. This is just, I feel like Elihu kind of has an understanding of what God's power can do, even though sometimes you kind of read what he says and you're like, wow, dude. Yeah. That's what I'm gaining from it, at least.
Well, yeah, I think he's talking about like at the end of our lives and everything, literally, in the days and everything, the wicked will be cast out and punished.
Yeah.
All right. Fast forward to 29. But if he chooses to remain quiet, who can criticize him? When he hides his face, no one can find him, whether an individual or a nation. He prevents the godless from. Okay, we're going to hang on that one. That don't go along with that verse. Okay, so if this kind of goes along with last week, if God chooses to remain quiet, are we supposed to be outraged with him?
No.
Well, we're not supposed to. Probably won't.
Well, I know we do.
We're not supposed to be. We can be, but that's a sin on our part. I don't feel like there's anything that should entitle a reason to be mad at God. I feel like as Christians, one of the first things we learn is that everything happens for a reason. Whether we see that reason or not, we just have to know that it happens. Clearly, they didn't get that ability to see everything happens for a reason. I don't think, that was anywhere in their teachings, because you never hear about it really.
All right, he prevents the godless from ruling, so they cannot be a snare to the people. Is that true? This day and age, is that true?
No.
I was over here shaking my head.
I was just afraid to say anything.
Well, he prevents the godless from ruling. This is God little g. So I'm wondering if this means God as in a ruler who has some type of belief.
When we say someone's a godly man, we use little g. The only big G is when we're talking about God himself.
Well, I understand that, but
Well, we wouldn't use-
there were still many civilizations that that were very successful. That didn't believe in God. Big G. They're not around anymore, but back then they were pretty.
I didn't ask were they successful.
Well,
Does he
then-
prevent the
no.
godless from ruling? So they cannot be a snare to the people.
Well, no. Nowadays, no.
I would say back then too.
Yeah, I agree. I don't
See,
really know where.
I think Elihu. I think he understands God, but he doesn't understand God wholly, which, like we said earlier, nobody does. Nobody
Yeah.
wholly understands God and everything. I think that he puts attributes on God that are his own making.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our own interpretation of God. But, you know, I mean, it's different for everybody, you know. I feel like with Elihu, his is, God is all powerful. I mean, he's right, but God's going to allow things to happen if he wishes for things to happen, whether we want to understand that or not.
Okay, so I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Where are you going to?
Because, well, that references back to 34:17. Could God govern if he hated justice? Are you going to condemn the Almighty Judge? For he says to kings, you are wicked, and to nobles, you are unjust. Well, 18 don't go with that. Okay, so if God is not unjust, and they believe God is responsible for everything.
You said if God is not unjust?
No, if God is, wait a minute.
As I said, that's a double negative.
Yeah.
So if God is just.
If God is just, whatever. This is the South. We use double negatives all the time.
Well, yeah,
Now
but it's
hush.
just hard. That's too many letters. It's too many letters. Okay, so what is
This
it?
is your last night up here.
This is my first night up here.
Start with the end in mind.
Okay.
Okay. If God is just,
Yep.
okay, and God is responsible for everything,
Yep.
okay, does that also mean he's responsible for evil? Because there is evil in the world. It's not a hard question.
I know. Do you think God created evil? What is evil? Exactly. That's where I was at.
Evil would be anything that goes against God.
So do you think God made that? Do you think God created something that... I sound like David right now. I need to stop. Oh my gosh.
I don't know, but that's not where I was going with my question.
Where were you going with your
My
question?
go- I
Because
was
that's
going
where I
with-
was going with my
I was
question.
going with my question is, okay, so we learned at the crucifixion that God had to turn away from Jesus because Jesus took all that sin on him.
Right.
So God cannot look upon sin, cannot look upon evil. So I'm not saying God's not just. God is just. But God's not necessarily responsible for everything. Because then that means he would be responsible for the evil in the world.
You said God can't look upon sin?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning he turns away. He doesn't
For
look.
him to be the judge, wouldn't you have to think that God would have to look at the sins that we committed?
At the end of time.
So you don't think he does that beforehand?
I don't know.
I think he would.
I don't know. All I could go by is what I've learned in the Bible.
I don't know. I mean, for him to be the judge, why would he have to wait till the end of time to look upon people's sins?
Well, my thing is, okay, like take in consideration Sodom and Gomorrah. He's seen all the evil there and everything, and what did he do? He destroyed the city.
Exactly.
So my thing is, if he is constantly looking upon the evil, then
Right.
to me, there would be a lot more destruction than what there is.
Do you think that whenever Jesus was crucified, that was the turning point in God where he said, okay, I don't think God says, I don't think I can stop this, but I think God says, this is what the people are going to do, whether I try to stop it or
Wait a
not.
minute, what are you talking about?
Evil. Because he saw the evil in Sodom and Gomorrah
Well,
destroyed it.
we were born into sin.
Yeah, it's inherent. We inherit that sin. So for everybody to have sin, God's gonna have to look at that at some point.
Not okay. Let's move on because you've done.
I'm not.
You've done dug too deep and too far away from what I was trying to get at. But anyway, all right. 31 to the end, sir.
Okay.
That's a conversation for another time.
Why don't people? Well, hang on. Why don't people say to God, "I have sinned, but I will sin no more," or "I don't know what evil I have done. Tell me if I have done wrong. I will stop at once." Must God tailor His justice to your demands, but you have rejected Him? Oh, I'm sorry. Must God tailor His justice to your demands, but you have rejected Him? The choice is yours, not mine. Go ahead, share your wisdom with us. After all, bright people will tell me, and wise people will hear me say, Job speaks out of ignorance. His words lack insight. Job, you deserve the maximum penalty for the wicked way you have taught, for you have added rebellion to your sin. You show no respect. You speak many angry words against God.
All right.
What?
I'm just looking to see how long Elihu keeps talking.
Oh, he talks a while. He speaks the most. You know the
Okay, he's got 2 more chapters, verses. Does God tailor His justice to your demands? But you have rejected Him. Okay, so
I'm guessing he's talking to Job here.
yeah, the choice is yours, not mine. Go ahead, share your wisdom with us. I think that. Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. I skipped a section. Yeah, I did. Why don't people say to God, "I have sinned, but I will sin no more," or "I don't know what evil I have done. Tell me if I have done wrong. I will stop at once." So, those 2 verses is what Elihu thinks Job should have said to God. Even though it says, "Why don't people say?" He's actually applying that towards Job. Job should say, "I have sinned, but I will sin no more. I don't know what evil I've done. Tell me if I've done wrong. I will stop at once." But Job knows he didn't do anything. They're basically wanting him to just confess for something that he didn't do so that he can get forgiven. But in a sense, they're trying to make him sin by falsely.
Even if Job pleaded with God, we would know that God wouldn't do anything still.
Well, I mean, there's nothing for at this point. There's nothing for God to forgive because Job didn't do nothing.
Right. Well,
it's just a test of wills between him and Satan.
Yeah.
Between God and Satan. So.
Well, Job has kind of showed some discontentment with God.
Well, I mean, yeah, by this point he has, but in the beginning there was nothing.
There was none, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because he is bordering on being irreverent and disrespectful to God.
And even in this, I mean, who are we to question
During a
God?
border, and in my opinion, he was disrespectful to God. But anyway,
Who are we to question God? I feel like sometimes it's okay to ask questions, but like stuff like this, where it's like, you know, if I've sinned, tell me what I did. That sounds kind of like a sin in itself.
well, my thing is with Job, and I understand he's stricken with grief and everything, but if I had that kind of relationship with God, you know, despite what my friends are saying and everything, if I had that kind of relationship with God and I'm crying out to Him, you know, God, what is going on? What am I doing? And all he's getting is silence. His next thought should have been, maybe this ain't God.
Right.
Maybe it's something else. There's got to be something else that's going on.
Well, like we said, they weren't taught to think maybe it's something else. They don't know that this could even be a possibility, because they think that everything that comes in the moral standpoint of life is God-given. That God's the one who gives it to us. I mean, we know as the reader, this is Satan. You know, this is, you know, God's allowing Satan to do this stuff to Job. But back then, everything that happened to you found its way back to God. It was all rooted from God.
Yeah, and I understand that. But my thing is, if he had, before all this, he had this great relationship with God, and then all of a sudden, boom. I mean, because it's not like it was, well, I don't know. We really don't know the time frame.
Right.
But it was like boom, boom, boom.
It was back to back to back, yeah.
Yeah, you know, he lost all this stuff and everything, but he knew in his heart there was no special sin that he had done or committed to warrant all that. There should be something somewhere,
Well, yeah,
you know, in the
you would
back of
think
your
so.
mind.
You would think so, but God said, I'm not gonna. Whenever God withdrew,
Well, God can't talk to
and
him
I understand God can't talk to him,
because
but
that
at the
would be
same
like him
time,
interfering.
I feel like the thought of maybe this is something ungodly would also be God interfering, because that's God giving insight. I would feel at that point. I mean, I'm not saying God's making Job more blind to the situation. I just think that whenever you have that spiritual radar of what's godly and ungodly, that's given by God.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Also,
Alright,
have
The
they-
spiritual radar, I like that.
I'm not entirely too certain, but have they been taught that there's anything other than God out there?
That's exactly what I said at the start of it.
That's what I figured
Like, no,
what you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
No,
They were
their belief system is you do good, you're rewarded, you do bad, you're punished.
Yeah.
That's their belief system.
But in this situation, Job's
They
like,
don't.
what's happening to Job is, I'm living my life, God, as God would want me to, but there's still things being stripped away from me.
I think that they have a good concept of like temptation, but I don't think they equate that to the devil
Yeah.
tempting you.
I mean,
It's just the fact
we
of
don't know because we
because-
didn't live back then.
we're flawless, sinful people.
Right.
No, we're flawed.
Flawless,
Flawed.
sinless people.
No,
What are you trying to get at?
Flawed, sinful
flawed,
Flawed, sinful
flawed,
people.
sinful people.
Flawed,
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 sinful people.
people. So,
flawed.
but like I said back then, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, whatever happened to somebody, whether it be good or bad, it was God given.
Yeah.
They thought, oh, if something bad's happening to you financially, relationship wise, your livestock's dying out of nowhere, it's God.
Yeah.
Alright, so 33 through 37. I'm gonna close this out. Must God tailor his justice to your demands, but you have rejected him. The choice is yours, not mine. Go ahead, share your wisdom with us. After all, bright people will tell me, and wise people will hear me say, Job speaks out of ignorance, his words lack insight. Not true. Job, you deserve the maximum penalty for the wicked way you have taught, for you added rebellion to your sin, you show no respect, and you speak many angry words against God.
I don't know. I mean, Job speaks out of ignorance, his words lack insight. You said that's untrue, right? In a sense, Job did speak out of ignorance.
A lot of well, they all are. If you
I mean, they're all speaking out of
they're
ignorance.
all speaking out of ignorance because they really don't know what's going on. But my thing is, a lot of stuff that Job said when he wasn't venting at God was pretty much true.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to imply that Job doesn't have any wisdom, but we do know that Job did have wisdom. You know, Job was a very wise person and everything, and in a sense, he still is. He's just in a bad place right now.
Right.
But
I feel like the only sin that Job has committed. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
no, you're good.
I feel like the only sin that Job has committed, where it says that he added rebellion to his sin.
Add rebellion to your sin.
Yeah, there's no other sin. I think it's just rebellion at this point. I think it's just the fact that
I
Job
wouldn't actually
has spoke against God.
say it's rebellion, because to me rebellion is you're going against. And I don't think he's not going against God. He's just being very disrespectful towards God. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, disrespect.
Because he's not exactly turning, I mean, he's not gonna start doing evil things.
Well, yeah, I understand, but how would you describe rebellion in this sense? What do you think Elihu is referring to rebellion as?
Well, rebellion would be doing the opposite of what's right, and in a sense, him being disrespectful to God is going against what's right.
And
Because we
isn't
shouldn't
saying-
be disrespectful.
Isn't
to
saying
God.
the same thing as doing.
Huh?
Isn't saying the same thing as doing.
I would say so. So, yeah, you're right. That's on that one. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, but it kills me where he says, go ahead, share your wisdom with us, but then he don't give Job a chance to talk.
I think no.
He
I
just
think what he's meaning at right there is, well, I mean, yeah, he doesn't give Job the chance to talk, which is kind of messed up. I mean, that's like, go and speak, bud. Oh yeah, by the way, like that's.
He did that at the
Yeah.
another chapter.
Yeah, like
So he
Elihu is like
wanted-
he's kind of a not nice person, you know. Like this guy is. It's pretty rude.
Yeah.
Um,
But the fact remains with all this, even though Elihu does make some very
Valid?
valid, thank you, points and everything, is he's
his arguments.
he claims to have all this wisdom about God and
Yeah.
everything, but he really don't.
Me and Mom was talking about it. I'm sorry. Me and Amanda was talking about it.
No,
Well,
you call me Mom. I earned the title. Go ahead. Go ahead with your
high
thought.
five on that one.
Go ahead with your thought.
Me and Mom was talking about it before we started, and one of the questions that I'd asked her was that what's the point in between defending God as a belief and defending God as a person or a figure. I believe Elihu is trying a little bit hard to defend him as a figure instead of a belief, and that's where he kind of messed up. Because I mean, who are we to defend God? We learned that in the sermon before David took his sabbatical. You know, David. You know, we're part of the flock. So who are we to step in front of God and say, "Let me fight this wolf for you," when God is the one supposed to be fighting that wolf?
Yep.
So that's the thought that, or the question that I want to leave you guys with is, at what point do we defend God as a belief and God as a man or a figure?
All right.
Okay. Any questions,
Questions, comments?
concerns?
All right.
I'm sorry it ran over.
We're carrying on next. Well, we got started late, so
Fair enough.
carrying on to next week.
Yep. Job 35. All right.
So
All right.
for one.
You gonna close us out?
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
a closer.
Go for it.
Dear God, thank you for this wisdom. Help us to reflect it on our lives and help us understand more of what you want. Help us understand who you are and help us understand what you want for us. I want to thank you for allowing me to be up here. And let's hope Mom was joking about this is my last time up here. But yeah. In your heavenly name, amen.
Amen. See y'all Sunday and next week.